Hello, my name is Marcus Henriksson. I'm a real estate analyst at ABG. We're pleased to have KlaraBo here with us today with the CEO Andreas Morfiadakis, a company that focus on residentials in Sweden. So welcome. Without further ado, Andreas, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marcus. If we can take the next slide, please. Like Marcus said, my name is Andreas Morfiadakis, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of this company that we started in the summer of 2017, and we're today listed at Nasdaq since December last year, trading at the mid-cap. Go to the next slide, please. And one more, thank you. Okay, the company in brief is that we are a pure residential property manager and developer company here in Sweden, and we focus all over the country. We have three areas of growth strategy. The first area is that we focus of investing in existing investment properties where we see potential when it comes to refurbishment. We have identified that approximately 65% of our portfolio, which sums up to 5,600 apartments under management, have a potential of increasing the rent by refurbishment. The current average rent in the portfolio for the unrenovated apartments is at a very low level at 1,043 kronor per square meter, which gives us a very nice upside when we do the refurbishment. The second area is the new construction. We try to focus on a very cost and production efficient volume module based product that we have so far only used contractors from the Baltic regions. And what we are trying to do is to get a very high quality with functional areas and cost-efficient rental apartments that we can produce in a very short period of time. It takes approximately 10 to 12 months from the time that we start until the tenants actually move in. At the moment, we do have 1,700 apartments in our project portfolio. And the last part is then acquisitions. We do want to continue growing. We have the last 2 or 3 years, the growth has been quite significantly, and we do see that we will keep buying both existing properties, but also land and building rights all over the country. If we take the next slide, please. So the first area, if we talk a little bit about that more in depth, is the renovation part, of course. We do see that the existing investment properties that we are buying have a need to implement the value-added strategy when it comes to refurbishment. So usually the inside of the apartments have a low standard or more a standard from the type where the properties actually were built, which is mainly during the 1670s. And we also see that there is a big demand from the tenants, and we see that through the refurbishment we do, of course, but also how the real occupancy rate, meaning that how many new tenants we attract from the refurbishment. Next slide, please. When it comes to the property management model, so like I said before, we do try to find existing properties with the potential of refurbishment where we can increase the rent, of course. We are geographically, we are looking for strong locations, not the major cities in Sweden like Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö, because we think that the yields are a little bit too low there. But we are looking for cities outside the main cities in Sweden, or cities that have a strong labor market and so forth. We do when we do look at our portfolio, we want to see that the average initial rent is low, and that the standards of the apartments is low. That actually gives us the proper possibility to increase rent by doing the investments needed inside the apartment. This is, of course, always sanctioned with the union of tenants, and we are always negotiating the rent with the union of tenants before we do any investments in the properties. And lastly, we do also think it's very important for the company that we have our own management in place in all these areas. It's very important to always be close to the market, know what the tenants need, know their demands, and of course also know who are the tenants. So we always want to have approximately 300 to 400 apartments at least in each city where we are located in. And if we do enter a city with lesser apartments than that, we have the ambition to continue being active in the transaction market in that city. Take the next slide, please. So today we have approximately 5,600 apartments, and we have 4 regions. The 2 biggest regions, which corresponds to approximately 66% of the portfolio, is located in south and east. And the 2 crown jewels that we have are the city in Trelleborg and in Visby, where we own approximately 900 apartments each in those 2. Both those portfolios were bought from the municipalities in respective city. Like I said before, the real occupancy rate is very important, which means that we always track how the vacancy rate is in these apartments and these properties. At the moment, we do have 99%, which in our mind, we have a fully let portfolio. 85% of the portfolio is housing units. And like I said before, we want to be a pure residential company. And when we are looking at new transactions, we're trying to have as high as number when it comes to housing units as possible. 5,600 apartments under management, and that has, of course, been growing quite rapidly in the last couple of years. Next slide, please. The renovation model that we have is a proven model. It's has been in the Swedish market for quite some time. Everybody's not doing it, but because it takes a lot of time, is a lot of work, of course. But as soon as you implement this model, it's quite efficient, and it's quite easy to actually calculate the return on the investment that you actually made. So basically what we're doing is that when a tenant move out, we go in and we do the inspection of the apartment. If we decide at that moment that we are going to refurbish the apartment, we have 1 to 3 months on us to actually call the contractor and sign off of the investment that we're going to do. Then the renovation takes approximately up to 4 weeks. And when the renovation is finished, we probably most likely will have a new tenant. So the whole process takes, say, close to 4 to 5 months, and during that time we always make sure that we have a new tenant moving in. During the same time, we also negotiate the rent with the union of tenants, so we always have an agreement when it comes to that, and so we don't actually have a risk when it comes to the rent. And when we're doing the refurbishment, we are actually taking out everything in the apartment. So it's as close as you get to a new standard apartment in these existing properties. If you take the next slide, please. So the last couple of quarters, we have been able, if you look at the graph on the left side of the screen, we have been able to refurbish close to 75 apartments per quarter. We believe that that's going to be the standard going forward, and we're probably going to be around 70 apartments. It can be a little bit higher or a little bit less. It always depends on how the churn rate is for that quarter and which apartments actually come out to the market. But we do think that around 70 apartments per quarter is going to be the new standard for KlaraBo. The graph on the right side on the top there, where it says 9.4 percentage points, stipulates the difference between the annual general rent increase that you get with the union tenants from negotiating with them yearly, and what KlaraBo has done when it comes to increasing the rental value through refurbishment. And what we have done, we have then increased the rental value with 9.4 percentage points through the last 3 years. That's our thousands of activities that we have been doing. It does take a lot of work, but is a very effective way to increase the rental value and also then the value of the properties, of course. And we do still have 3,500 apartments where we have identified with the renovation potential, which actually can give us an increase with rental value with approximately 80 million SEK annually, as you can see at the graph on the below right-hand side. Take the next slide, please. If we just mention a little bit about the new construction, so what we have done is that we have designed floor plans for the apartments that we are putting out in the market. We have been very focused that we can do space efficient apartments, and also, of course, setting a rent level in these apartments that is affordable for everybody. That has been one of the factors that we have been focusing quite a bit. So we're always building rental apartments for our own property management. Take the next slide, please. So we have designed 1 to 4 room apartments that are 35 to 85 square meter each. They are all being module based in wood and are built in factories. So we have had a very high level of industrial thinking when we're doing this process. Like I said before, it does take 10 to 12 months from the time we're starting a project until the tenants are moving in. And as you can see, some of the pictures on the right-hand side are 2 projects, Motala and Höganäs, that are completed, and then Hör, which is completed here in July. And as you can see, the facade are quite different from each project, but they all have exactly the same floor plans and the same measurements in all 3 cases here, which means that we can actually design the project from how the building looks and so forth. And very cost efficient and time efficient product that we have been very satisfied with, and we still have 1,700 apartments in the project portfolio that we will be build at some time. Take next slide, please. If at the moment we have 168 apartments under construction, and if we were to finish all the product portfolio, we will have an estimated rental value at 185 million SEK per year, and the estimated market value at completion is close to 4 billion for these 1,700 apartments. That would, of course, increase the rental value of the company quite much, and is something that we are always working with, of course. We do have set the goal that we are going to be commence construction of at least 200 apartments per year up until the year 2023, and then after that we believe that we're going to be up at 500 apartments per year. Take the next slide, please. So the third part of the growth strategy is, like I said, is acquisitions. We are always active in the market. We have been very active for ever since the company started. We have both signed new building rights. We have also been buying quite large portfolios when it comes to existing properties, and we have been very successful doing this both in the market and of course also off the market. And the next slide is what we're trying to do is that we're trying to focus in growth regions. Of course, we do want to see that there is a demand of new of rental apartments. There's close to 200 municipalities that still have a deficit when it comes to housing in this country. So there's quite many cities that is actually in scope for KlaraBo. When we're like I said before, we do believe that some of the major cities in the country has the market has been very tough, and the yields has gone down quite a bit. So we're not really looking at the main cities of here in Sweden. We are looking at a city, for instance, like Trelleborg, which is 20 minutes outside Malmö and 30 minutes from Copenhagen. That has a very good communication possibilities, quite a few large infrastructure programs that are going on in Trelleborg, and then of course has a strong housing market that attracts the business model that that KlaraBo actually has. And we think that we have been successful when it comes to identifying and executing transactions going through the years, which takes us to the next slide, where we just have listed some of the biggest transactions that we have done for the last 4 years. So this will just give you a sense of what kind of company KlaraBo is, and hopefully we can do the same going forward. So if we take the next slide, just want to mention a little bit about the first quarter results, and one more slide, please. We have seen that revenue, NOI, and of course profit for the quarter has increased quite a bit since the same quarter last year. Everything has gone up with approximately 100% year on year, and some of it is of course due to the transactions that were done, but We have also seen a very large increase when it comes to the earnings capacity. For the quarter, the like-for-like basis, we increased the earnings capacity with 4% this quarter, which is a very high level when it comes to organic growth. And we are seeing that we will hopefully be able to keep that tempo even going forward, which is, of course, depending on all the refurbishment that we're doing. And as long as we're doing the refurbishment at the same tempo, you will also see the graph on the bottom there on the right side. The gap will be increasing each quarter. And since that's one of the biggest parts of the business model, that gap will be increasing each quarter. We have a ton of focus when it comes to that. The LTV level for the company was at Q1 43%. Which is very low. The financial target is that we over time should be close to 65%, but at this time, when the market is a little bit shaky, you don't really know where the yields are going, and perhaps you have increasing interest rates, then we're very happy to have an LTV level at 43%. And should also mention that we only have bank financing in our debt portfolio. We take the next slide, please. Just briefly, because I think we're running out of time here. Q1 highlights. We made a transaction in Umeå, 126 apartments, and then we received a land allocation in the city of Skellefteå and Växjö, which gives us approximately 250 apartments. After the period, we also got a land allocation together with gjorts here in Malmö, which is very close to the office where I'm located right now, that we can put together with gjorts 300 apartments with mixed ownership forms. Then we also published that we did a refinance of existing credits close to 1.5 billion SEK, and we also signed facility agreements with another 1.5 billion SEK, which gives us some power going forward. And then just lastly, next slide, please. I just want to highlight the earnings capacity. As you see, each quarter the earnings capacity is growing rapidly, but I think the column where like for like is one of the most interesting that we have, because that should be compared with the earnings capacity of January 1st, and there you can see that we have increased the earnings capacity with 4%, which is just organic growth. So there are no new deals, including in that is just the existing properties that we have been working with for the quarter that is increasing the cash flow, and of course also the profit from property management. So that is something that we're extremely happy to be able to show, and hopefully we can do the same going forward. And if we just end up with next slide, please, and one more. Just the investment highlights. Again, 4% growth we had in the first quarter here. The company has 3,500 apartments, which with renovation potential, which gives us a good base when it comes to the organic growth. The project portfolio is 1,700 apartments, whereas we have 170 apartments in production at the moment. The balance sheet, as always, quite a focus, but I think at times like this, the focus is a little bit higher when it comes to the balance sheet. And I do want to stress that the company of KlaraBo only have bank financing in their debt portfolio. Okay, Marcus. So I'm done. Sorry that I took a few more minutes of the time here. So I can just leave it over to you, perhaps.
No worries. Thanks for that. I guess we can have two quick questions before the next company. So start off with, do you see any risk of having delays or cost increases in your ongoing projects?
When it comes to the ongoing projects, no, we don't see any risk when it comes to cost increases because those projects as at a fixed price. When it comes to the delays, one of the projects is almost finished, which is so that won't be affected. And there might be times are so shaky, so I honestly can't say. We don't see any delays at the moment, but things are happening so fast day by day at the moment. So you never know. But we do have a lot of the production is ongoing, and some of the modules are already in place as well. So hopefully we won't have any delays when it comes to the remaining products.
Last question. Looking at the deal flow, you acquired one property in Umeå earlier in 2022, but how is the deal flow now? Any concrete dialogues? What do you see in the market? Any good transactions closed or about to finalize?
I think, well, of course, I can't say anything if we are about to finalize anything, but I think everybody is a little bit more careful when it comes to doing transactions. I believe that the gap between the seller and buyer's price expectations is bigger today than it was a couple weeks or a couple of months ago. So it does take a little bit longer time, and there have been quite a few residential portfolios out there. And as far as I know, they have been done at a quite high level when it comes to price. So I don't see that the price has changed any, but I think that some of the investors has been a little bit more careful when it comes to the deal flow. And we'll see how it goes going forward. But like I said before, we do have the firepower with the refinancing we did a couple of weeks ago. So we're not in a hurry. We will make sure, and we will just evaluate the market, and then we will act when we think the time is right.
Sounds good. Thank you for the presentation, Andreas, and we will be back very soon with the next company.
All right. Thanks for having me.